to address.
Good idea.
That'll be in phase 2.
Yeah. Behemoth, man.
All right, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. 6:30. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gadd?
Here.
Commissioner Snooks?
Here.
Recording in progress.
Commissioner Evans?
Here.
Mayor Tarkington?
Here.
Chair Nyberg?
Here. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So this is where it's open to general public input unless the item is on the agenda. If you choose to speak, please state your name and address. There's a sign-in at the podium and also one when you come in. All right, seeing none, I'll move on to Planning Commissioner disclosure conflicts of interest.
Done.
Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'd second.
Second, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gadd?
Yes.
Commissioner Snooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Evans?
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington?
Yes.
Chair Nyberg?
Yes. All right, we'll move on to 2A, public hearing agenda on the 2023-13 Upper Pine River Fire Protection District New Fire Station Number 1, use by review.
I'll start, Chief. I'll start real quick. So this is a request from Upper Pine Fire, and they are proposing to relocate station number 1 from the current location on Clover Drive to the location on Sour Drive, in the corner of Sour Drive and Bayfield Center, and then County Road 501. It's currently a vacant lot. It's approximately 2.7 acres in size. They're looking at a shared fire station and medical clinic facility. It is zone business, and so through that zone, it's just a use by review process as well as staff level site plan review. So if they do receive Planning Commission approval tonight, then staff will finalize with our engineers the site plan process for them before they can apply for any building permits. The property is currently vacant. It is a central location in the community, so again, a good location for a fire station. And they are proposing access off of County Road 501. This portion of County Road 501, the black dashed line is town limits, so this portion of County Road 501 is actually annexed into the town, just to where the mini storage is located. And so therefore, the town has the final say on the access off County Road 501 versus the county. The county will not be issuing an access permit for that emergency access. Just a couple plans, and I'll go ahead and orient you because that was a comment. But the north is this direction, this is south, east, and then that's west. And so their proposal again is the medical center as well, or medical clinic as well as the fire station. Fire station on the north side of the property, medical clinic on the south side of the property. They're proposing their main access off Sour Drive, but they are asking for an emergency only access off of County Road 501. So the fire trucks would be using that for egress only. So they'd be coming out, turning left or right at that location, and then when they come back from the emergency, they would come up Sour and back in and pull through the station. So we pull through the station. They provided us their conceptual elevations, and they look very nice for Bayfield, so we were pleased to see those, and the materials and the colors, muted earth tones, stonework. So this is a use by review, so it does not go to the Board of Trustees unless the Planning Commission denies it and they appeal the proposal to the Board of Trustees. And like I said, the use by review is approved by the Planning Commission, but we still need to finalize the site plan review process at the staff level, which would come after we hear what Planning Commission's comments are for the approval. There's a few criteria that they need to meet as part of the use by review, and staff did outline that criteria, as well as provided answers to that criteria in the staff report, so I won't go through that in detail unless the Planning Commission or anybody from the public has any specific questions about that. But staff is recommending approval. I mean, the fire station, again, central location, having County Road 501. You know, there's gonna be a few times during the day that you're gonna get a lot of traffic on 501, mainly during school drop-off and pickup. But, you know, emergency vehicles, hopefully, will be able to exit that area smoothly even during those times. Otherwise, they have a low peak time for their vehicles. So the medical clinic and the fire station do not really have those same peak times as the schools and stuff. Their peak times are low traffic, but they will see some of those impacts because they already have existing traffic conditions on 501. But staff also, you know, it's a good location and centrally located. The medical clinic is something we believe the community really needs and will benefit from. And so we are, and the location being in a business, there are some larger agricultural properties on the west that have homes on them. Those are the closest residential properties to the site. Right now, it is close to residential as well in the current location, but it is in a business zone, so in terms of compatibility, hopefully minimal impacts to neighbors because it's mostly business surrounding these properties. So staff's review, it is consistent with the land use code and the use by review criteria, and also consistent with the 2018 comprehensive plan and future land use map. But there are a few conditions I want to go through. I'm going to open the site plan as I go through those, and then turn it over to Chief for his presentation. But a couple of the conditions, the first one is we do, as part of their final site plan review, anything that the planning commission decides tonight, as well as our referral agency comments, need to be addressed at that final site plan review process. And any conditions you place on them tonight need to be met as part of that. They also still need to submit their lighting plan and geotechnical report. The lighting plan will be important just to make sure there's no impact to adjacent, especially to residential to the west. And then the geotech report is definitely needed for any foundation work on this property. They are not located within a flood hazard area, so there's no concerns with that as part of the geotech. They are proposing an extension to the shared use path. We have a shared use path all throughout Bayfield Center. Right now, it's the asphalt path that's kind of crumbling and deteriorating, but we received a grant from CDOT, and we're in the process of finalizing engineering to redo that path throughout Bayfield Center and turn it into a concrete path versus asphalt path. And as part of that, town staff did meet with CDOT and walked around this property to see if at that point we wanted to have a connection along 501. Currently, the path does not go along 501 and to the north, but the path does go along the Sour, which does go in front of Corey Gosling's property and then in front of the fire station's existing sharing plan. So the path currently goes along Sour Drive up here, comes across the north side of the existing fire station admin building, and then goes along 501 here. And as I say, town staff did walk the site with CDOT, and CDOT had some concerns with some potential wetlands on this west side of the property, and therefore they suggested we don't go in that area with the path right now. We probably have to get into some environmental clearances, and so that's why we just are doing the existing area, not extending it. The fire station is proposing as part of their site to plan to extend it, and so we did
We wouldn't have to require any sort of flashing light situation on that exit on 501?
So our engineers have reviewed that and, again, there's not enough.
It's slow enough traffic there.
Well, and there's not enough activity from the fire station, there's not a lot of peak
Okay.
exits on that emergency access to warrant something like that. So now it might come to a time where we decide, working with the fire department, that it's probably the best solution, but it's not something that's warranted at this point.
Chief, what's your largest engine you're going to operate out of Station 1?
Hi there, Bruce Evans, Fire Chief for Upper Pine. The question was, what's our biggest fire engine we're operating out of there? And it's a Type 1 engine.
Okay.
So there's, I would say there's potentially future plans for a ladder truck in there at some point. And I would just say that as we look to relocate a fire station, we're building for 70 years. So this fire station will be servicing Bayfield for the next 70 years. And if there's, all the plans happen on East Bayfield and some of the other development that you guys have entertained, there could be potential that there could be 2 trucks out of there. But currently we staff 3 people in that station, and they jump back and forth between the engine and the medic unit. It does handle about a third of our call volume in the entire fire district. So.
Did you have a presentation or?
No, so I don't have a presentation. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background.
Yeah.
So for those of you who have been here for a long period of time, you know that we've been struggling to relocate our Upper Pine Station 1. We talked about potentially rehabbing that. That's the station that is currently over at 75 Clover Drive. We've had engineers look at that building over the last 5 years, and it's structurally not appropriate for it to have a rehab on it. The other thing I would tell you is that station was never built to house full-time people. It was built and occupied when we were a volunteer fire department, so there was not full-time crews in there. I would tell you there's privacy issues in there also, and as we now are acquiring female firefighters, they don't necessarily have the same privacy that they do at our other stations with single quarters. So that's another issue that we have to be taken into consideration with the design on this. The other, so we looked originally, and many of you know that we've come up with some pretty grandiose ideas in the past. Initially, we wanted to take over the South Street site and build a combination of a fire station and a rec center and a gun range in the basement. And that was met with a lot of, skepticism. There was a lot of people that loved it. The gun-toting public loved it, and the people that were anti-gun hated it. But it was a big project, and it involved swapping land with the school district, and we were never able to make that happen. Then we looked at potentially building up on this current site that we had, and a lot of the experience that we've seen with stations that have 2 stories, even though you try to seal them and keep the diesel exhaust off out of the living quarters and out of the sleeping area, it's still very, very hard to do. So we had talked about this same design, and that's the nice thing about this site. We really haven't modified our design and our concept. We initially had that located where we would take over the builder supply lot, and the builder supply folks were happy to move. They thought they could move across the street to the Haga property, and that looked like it was going to be cost prohibitive for where he wanted to move to. So we've spent almost a year and a half trying to find builder supply a new place to go. And every time we look at a place for him to go, it's either too expensive or cost prohibitive for his business model. So we looked at a site that Paul Peoples had offered us 4 acres over next to Evening's Porch. However, to bring the utilities over to that facility, it was going to be about $1.2 million, and that exceeded our reserve fund that we had available to purchase the lot. The good folks from EIS, we approached them about potentially selling their property. We saw some stakes over there, thought they were going to build over there, and then when the stakes got pulled up, we thought it was available. And we had been in a fairly lengthy negotiation with EIS about the purchase of the land and came to a reasonable price for that. So we do have the land in escrow right now with EIS. And that is happening for a couple reasons. One is that The funding for this fire station, we're planning on applying for the USDA loan. And many of you know the USDA facilities program. It will loan you up to $40 million for 40 years at about a 1.5% interest. However, before you're allowed to submit that application, you have to have the land secured. So that was part of the reason to move forward on this. So that's part of the, the whole business plan of how this thing works. So this is a great location. When we did some of our response time analysis, and as Nicole told you, this is a really good location for response time. A lot of our secondary responses are up into Forest Lakes or up north on 501. This is usually the secondary station that responds up there. So any place that we found that was going to be east of County Road 501 was a good location when we looked at kind of doing our response time analysis. We did entertain a couple of looks at some properties that were out towards Gem Village, and that crashed the response time up into Dove Ranch and up into some of the future developments that you guys are looking at. So this was kind of the perfect spot for us to come into. It's already got utilities to it. It's close by the admin building. The guys are already joking about the chief walking down to nose around and make sure that they're working. So, we're trying to kind of consolidate our physical plant into the same neighborhood. So I want to yield the floor for a little bit. I'm happy to answer questions now, but I'd like to also introduce some of the other people that are helping make this project possible. Brian's here from the Durango Urgent Care, so the clinic portion of this. We've been in discussions with Durango Urgent Care about a long-term lease to operate the clinic. Because it stands as a rural healthcare clinic, it has an incredible amount of federal funding that we're available to go in and apply for from a grant standpoint and outfit the place so that we could hopefully hand over a turnkey facility to Durango Urgent Care to operate. Part of the reason to put a healthcare clinic in here is that we, as Upper Pine paramedic program is typically the primary healthcare provider over in this side of the county. The community paramedic program is something that we have started training our people on. Under state law, it requires that if an organization is going to become a community paramedic program, they have to have one community paramedic certified within the ranks of the organization. And we have 2 people that have taken the class, just haven't taken the test yet. So as soon as that opens up, now that's a new Colorado state law that was passed about 2 years ago to allow community paramedics an expanded scope. The insurance companies are paying for it. And it kind of dovetails into what Durango Urgent Care has looked at from a staffing standpoint, that we would have the potential to have a community paramedic program run out of the clinic in this building. So I also want to introduce Paul Black. Many of you know him. He's our board president. He's also a neighbor to this project, so as the fire trucks go out.
That's why I asked about the flashing
There's
light,
going
Paul.
to be a lot of folks there. And then the folks from EIS that own the property are here too, so they're happy to answer any questions that you may have, or again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on this project.
No, you hit it. I was going to ask you about the structure and the vision of the medical clinic, but that answers that.
Yeah, and I would also tell you that, so if you can see on the structure of the building up in that far left corner there, there's a community room. So there's kind of 2 things that we've had in this design all along. One is a community room for public meeting space. And then as you enter into the building, we have what we call kind of the Hall of Flame. And many of you know that have been here for a long period of time that, Upper Pine, before it was a full-time department, was staffed by volunteer firefighters. Many of them in the community, people like Ron Donovan, who was a volunteer firefighter here many, many years ago. And there's 2 or 3 generations of people. Even our board president himself was part of our staff at one time. So those are the people that built the department. We want to have some tribute to them. So we'll have a little museum in there. And essentially what we want is a building that if a school bus pulls up to the entrance and lets some kids off for a fire station tour, that they're getting quality experience coming through that. As it stands right now, it's probably not safe for them to be in the current station that we have, just from the amount of diesel that's on the wall and ceiling in there. One other thing I should mention too about the clinic. So I know that we've had some discussions with the leadership here at the town about interfacing with the county on our long-term strategic plan. So we did present this building over at the Bayfield Library when the county was over there doing kind of their east side meeting. And it was the first time that Marcia got a chance to look at it. I have shared this with the former mayor, and he's been pretty excited about it. But Marcia had seen it for the first time, and she also relayed to me that there has been, as the health district breaks up and the county now takes a responsibility to be the health department, that they have done a bunch of surveys, and I think everybody may have seen the health department survey that came through that they asked the public to fill out. Interestingly enough, one of the results of that survey out of the Ignacio area and out of the Bayfield area was that people don't want to drive 18 miles into town for their health care. So Marcia said that, as part of their strategic plan for the new health department, they were looking at a potential space over here in Bayfield, and she was very excited to see that this potential facility could fix that. One of the things that we'll probably design the community room for, as many of you know, we were pretty heavily involved in the vaccine clinic, and we ran vaccine clinics in our admin building. We would make sure that this community room could be instantly turned into a mass vaccination clinic. I'm not sure this is the last pandemic we're going to see. And there might be a need for public health issues to be distributed again in a community building, and we would make sure that the facility would be set up for that.
And if you fall short on the funding, the grant funding, I mean, do you foresee having to go back to the voters?
So I would tell you that we are going to have to go to the voters. And one of the things that we're going to go to the voters about is to extend our existing bond. So we passed a bond in 2004. It was a 20-year bond, so it expires next year. So we're going to go back to the voters and ask for another 20-year extension on that particular bond. Now, when we do that, it's going to probably mean no new net taxes, but it's going to mean an extension of an existing mill levy. So we're trying to make this thing happen without raising taxes. And part of that is kind of a three-part funding series where we'll see potentially the bond, potentially the lease money that comes from Durango Urgent Care, and the revenue that's generated out of the clinic. And then the second or the third part of that would be, as you are all aware, and you probably got your assessed evaluations, we've seen a pretty significant increase in assessed evaluations. And some of that money we will peel off the assessed evaluations to make the annual loan payment that would potentially be on the USDA loan. So I would like to say that this is all paid for. There's a lot of work on my part still to go to the public health people and to the all the other folks that have money that want to potentially fund a rural health clinic. So that could drive down the price of the facility even more.
I just think there's gonna have to be a huge educational component to the public about what that means. I think that question shows up on a ballot and it looks scary.
It does.
So I just,
And we've engaged the services of Ireland Stapleton and Emily Powell, who's their special district's attorney, and she's writing all that stuff for us. She's dealt with these things before, very experienced lawyer from that group, and they're kind of the go-to agency or the go-to law firm when you're dealing with special districts law. So she's written and done several of these things, and I was on the phone with her today about how to structure this thing properly. And she's, and I told her that, this is a conservative community. They're very temperamental about the tax structure over here. And we need to make sure that whatever goes down in this particular piece of legislation is specifically targeted to the construction of this facility.
So what are you going to do with your prior facility over at 75 Clover?
Yeah, so that was asked before we started the meeting, and I would tell you that there is a business owner that is very interested in swapping that spot with us and then paying up. He's in a smaller location now. He wants to expand his business. He wants more facility under one roof. The building is unique from the standpoint that it does have a lot of interior space, and it's got a bunch of garage doors that you can pull vehicles in and out of. So there's a possibility that we could potentially swap that property with another business owner, and they would pay some additional monies to offset the cost of the project.
Thank you.
My biggest concern is just egress points associated with the clinic, and it correlating to your fire engines, and people getting impatient with fire engines, and I know how much they cost to repair. So just feedback on that one, I would recommend talking to the engineers and architects about separating that entrance from emergency vehicles. So that
Right.
way, hopefully you don't have any incident reports to have written, or the marshals have to write accident reports. And then I know it's not required, but I think flashing lights would probably behoove you guys, very similar to what they have in the middle. Because yes, right now, traffic volume, but come here in the next 10 years with the amount of growth that's been slated for housing and associated with this, community and what's going on with the Haga property and the growth associated with that east section, I think that it may be something. My other concern is shoulders, like people getting out of your way as you guys are trying to do what you're doing.
Right.
And there is not much room on the side of the road there for vehicles to appropriately yield the right of way to fire engines as they're trying to make emergent.
Yeah, so the architects are actually online out of Denver. We're dealing with Oz Architecture, who has built hundreds of fire stations. They're currently in the process of building a couple for the city and county of Denver and for South Metro. We can always bring that up. I know that I talked to Nicole a little bit about a potential second entrance in there for the clinic, and then just leaving the other entrance for fire trucks only and emergency egress and access in there. And whether we put a rolling gate in there too, that could be a possibility. I think grading and putting some additional road base to make the shoulders a little bit wider, it shouldn't be a big deal either. Again, we'd need to talk to Public Works about that and see if that's permissible, and I'm sure you're probably okay with that. But it's, I don't see that being a big issue to add to this project at all.
The other thing I've seen in large structures like this, I'm an engineer by background. The soil in western Colorado is not known very well by front range engineers and how much it moves. So just something for you, chief, to kind of
Right.
make sure they pay close attention to, because the last thing we want to do is spend lots of money and build a beautiful building and it move on you.
Right. So we've entertained Troutner Engineering to come over and do the soil study. And they're giving us a bid right now on that, preparing it for the architects.
Okay.
So obviously, the way those things get bidded due to liability, soil studies are typically outside the purview of the architectural firm. So, but Troutner's the one we've engaged to do this.
Yeah, I mean, that's my concern too on 5 You got Texans just, watching the view and they're not paying attention.
And I would
to
say
what's going on.
honestly, probably, and you guys know how much the traffic lights are because you've been dealing with the
Yeah.
east thing. And I would say that probably, this station might run 2 calls a day, 3 calls a day out of it. Certainly as more development happens here, the call volume's going to increase. And, we could talk with Nicole about potentially a trigger being in there where we go after a stoplight. So if the call volume gets up, say, above an average of a certain amount a day, that we look at potentially putting a light in
And it
there.
may be just establishing the infrastructure now, so that way if the need arises, it's not a bigger endeavor to, and I'm more referring to lights go on when your engines are going out.
Right,
So when
yeah.
your young bucks are going hardcore.
Yeah, so,
Grandma Good Cookies doesn't get, clipped on the way out type of thing.
yeah, and, and it does, I would say that our peak time for emergency responses for us is usually between 2 and 11 o'clock at night. So it's usually evening. Matter of fact, we try to make sure that all our training's done by noon because the call volume in the morning is pretty minimal. Any questions for the folks that have showed up here? So Durango Urgent Care, any questions from them? So.
Would that be a 24/7 clinic, or is that?
Yep.
staff?
And so we talked about a couple of different staffing models over there. So I have some people that work part-time over at Durango Urgent Care. And now that they've taken over the ski area too, I've got some folks that are going back and forth that working part-time over there. I would say that the community paramedic is an option. And we, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but we're already employing telemedicine with a company called Hippo Health. So if you're a Medicare patient and you're seen by our crews and you don't want to go to the hospital, but you're still kind of questioning whether the situation requires you to be hospitalized or take an ambulance ride or not, we have the ability to pop on our iPad and you can talk to a doctor. It's one of the doctors that's out of St. Mary's up in Grand Junction that's affiliated with this Hippo Health, and they usually come on within 5 minutes, and the paramedic or the EMT gives a report to them, And then the doctor talks to the patient and says, well, do you want to go? Or I think, they've evaluated you. Here's all the information. And you can probably stay at home safely. And I would tell you that I was just discussing with Brian before we convened the meeting here that I did take a tour of St. Charles Ambulance Service, which is in St. Charles, Missouri. They just built a brand new headquarters building. It was pretty massive, and they put a clinic in it. And the clinic, they term the clinic a cloud clinic. So when you walk into this clinic facility, it's got 4 exam rooms, which we're proposing a few more. And then in the exam room, there's a telemedicine device that's in there, and you sit in like a high-end dental chair, and there's just one paramedic staffing it. And the paramedic has all these diagnostic devices that are Bluetoothed into the telemedicine application. So once the labs are drawn and everything's done, a doctor pops onto the telemedicine, and the paramedic's there with all these Bluetooth devices looking in your ear. The doctor can see what they're holding in the ear. They put a stethoscope on you, it's Bluetooth to the telemedicine device. They can hear your lung sounds. They got an ultrasound that's Bluetoothed, and they move it around, say, oh, I need you to angle it this way so I can see this person's gallbladder a little bit better. And the physician is totally virtual on the television, and the paramedic's just moving these diagnostic tools around that are all Bluetooth. And again, this cloud clinic concept is really gaining a lot of momentum. I kind of talked to them a little bit about how their success rate is there. Same day appointments for everybody coming in there. Now they're operating on as a regular walk-in clinic like Durango Urgent Care does. They're using a concierge medicine that's similar to Katie McRae's business, where everybody pays a subscription and they get a same day appointment. And they have 6 or 7 large clients that they're seeing in there. But probably the interesting thing about that is the customer satisfaction rating is through the ceiling in there. So again, you're in and out, same day appointment, you get to see a doctor, and really the paramedics just being the eyes and ears, which is the capability of the community paramedic. And since our people are already starting to get experience with telemedicine right now with the Hippo Health program on the iPads, by the time this station's fully constructed and the clinic's open, which is probably September of 2025, our people will be very experienced with telemedicine by that point. We already have a Bluetooth ultrasound machine that we haven't put in service yet that was given to us by some foundation, the Rocky Mountain Healthcare Foundation. We just haven't engaged it yet.
You mentioned opening fall of 2025. What's kind of the projected start date?
So the architect's still got to go through blueprint status on this, get it out to bid, get the design build piece of it going. Ideally, if best case scenario is May, June, no later than July 1. Brian, you want to say anything else?
Brian Vincent, I'm CEO and part owner of Durango Urgent Care, Aztec Urgent Care. I just want to thank Chief to invite me to be part of this. I think we're probably bringing over 20 years' experience to local healthcare. I've been here for 12. My business partners are Bayfield residents. They've been here as nurses and stuff like that for probably about 30 years. I think this is something we were ready to kind of look at moving this way already. We already service the north end of Durango, Purgatory, and Aztec. We get a lot of requests from Bayfield residents to be over here. But I think we can handle the load of expanding out here. When I first started in 2012, we had 5 providers. Now we have 19. So we've moved to different locations. We've expanded. So I think we're geared up to do a hybrid of what Chief's talked about, where we'll have inpatient visits with our providers, and then in the evenings, we can be the telemedicine doctor, so it's still local. But yeah, I think our response time, everything will be great. I think our reputation, as far as what we see, is pretty outstanding in the community. So yeah, we're glad to be part of it. If you guys have any questions, I can leave business cards, stuff like that, but more than happy to answer anything you got.
No, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Paul Black, 311 County Road 501, right across the street. Just wanted to mention a couple things kind of on behalf of Upper Pine, it's pretty amazing to see a facility like this come to the town of Bayfield. Thinking back in the volunteer times, this is not anything I think anybody saw from back in those days. Just a couple little things about, you know, you were talking about the shoulder with the trucks and stuff. I like the idea of keeping the walk path on the east side of this facility instead of on the 501 side. That might help quite a bit from keeping the folks right there where the trucks are coming out. Also, the kind of the wetlands area that you guys talked about, that's actually our ditch that's been abandoned for probably 25 plus years. It's all piped now through the industrial park. So that's just kind of a low area in there that's always been kind of a shoulder that kind of gets sheet flows in there. So I don't know if I'll throw it as a wetlands, but that's just the history on that, so you guys do know that. Then as far as the landowner across the street, I guess I'm the closest, and probably the folks to the north of me are fairly quiet. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, no big yellow neon signs and maybe some trees would just be great. You know, that's kind of our looking out skyline there. So the concept that they have designed looks really good to me. And like I said, just trees and looks good. So appreciate all the work they're doing and look forward to it. Any questions, I guess?
Most of you guys know me, Josh Ray, EIS Holdings, EIS Inspection, EIS Environmental. A lot of entities. Yeah, we bought this property. At first, we talked to Ashley about putting in like an 11th Street there, like they have in Durango. COVID hit, everything else, and we're actually very consumed with our inspection side and everything else. So this was just a endeavor that was going to be, we had to put it on the back burner when they approached us on it. You know, it's a very good, it's a flat area. Yeah, there's going to be some cut and fill going on, and you're going to have to do your egress and everything else. But it is as far as infrastructure, it sits in a pretty good location. As most of you guys know, John and I have 6 kids in the Bayfield School District. 4 of them are going to be freshmen this next year, and 1, my oldest, is going to be a junior. So we're very glad to hear that there could be an urgent care here, just with what we deal with. So, but no, we're glad. Hope this all works out. And yeah, if you guys got any questions on our end of it, John and I have been in the area for 45 plus years. So, you know, we want this is going to be our home, and it has been our home, and it's, you know, we're part of the community as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, any other public input?
Nobody online? No?
Sorry, kind of find the mute button there. Yes, Eric Becker with Architecture. I don't really have anything to add. I'd like to say, you know, we're very happy to be working on this project and working with Upper Pine River. You know, it's an exciting project for the community. It's great to hear that the public comment so far has been positive. And, you know, so far the comments and things that we've received from the review and everything, we don't see any issues with addressing that when we move forward. So, if you have any specific questions about things, yeah, go ahead and ask now, and we'll try to respond.
No questions at this time?
Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So we look forward to advancing this design and presenting it, and, yeah, we will be seeing you soon.
All right, seeing no more public comment, we'll move on to the action agenda. 3A, approval of June 13, 2023 minutes.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes from June 13th, 2023 as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gad,
Yes.
Commissioner Snooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
Chair Nyberg.
Yes. All right, moving on to 3B, 2023-13, Upper Pine River Fire Protection District, new fire station number 1, use by review.
Do you want to add a condition just to have that light on the radar in the condition, or?
No,
I mean,
I,
think it's
it was
been
just more,
stated.
I just was throwing it out there. My biggest concern is honestly, is if running the clinic and that operating, why fire operations are gonna go on, just, I think that it would be worth talking about separating those entrances, so that way it doesn't impact your fire department. You know, I want both of them. I think they're all both outstanding. I just, having one point office hour, you know, like I said, I just have a concern of it affecting operations or just what the fire department's doing and kind of keeping those two a little bit more sterile, if possible.
I think when we get revisions on this, we should add additional entrance on the south side of Salad.
Yeah, and that's my biggest thing is I think that, you know, that way you can kind of keep the public away from emergency operations if you need to and what you guys are doing, and you don't get too many looky-loos if you're doing training and things like that.
I think, you know, the fire department's gonna wanna make sure that they have really good access, and so if it gets to the point, they're gonna know if we're having constraints on 501. And I think if it gets to that point, we'll have that conversation about if there's something else we need to do there to help them get out easier. And I'm sure we'll have that conversation if they see the need.
And I think it's probably prudent to pre-wire that, you know, because ideally, if you were gonna have the traffic light function there correctly, without having to put Opticom in, you would have it so that when the doors open at the station, it triggers a light to turn red. So pre-wiring, or at least putting some conduit down there, and putting a base there for future traffic signals shouldn't be a big expense to add to the project.
All right, then on that note, I would make a motion to approve the Upper Pine River Fire Protection District new fire station number 1 use by review with the following findings and conditions as presented in alternative action A.
And I'll
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gad,
Yes.
Commissioner Snooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans,
Yes.
Mayor Tarkington,
Yes.
Chair Nyberg.
Yes. All right, moving on to 4A, CDD report.
Just to reiterate, this does not need to go to the board of trustees. We're gonna have Chief go, he has some other things to talk with the board about in the next couple, maybe month, and so we'll just have him give an update to the board about this, but it does not need board.
Thank you, ma'am. All good.
Thank you.
There
Thank you for
goes-
being here.
There goes our audience.
Thank you.
Got lonely all of a sudden.
I know. They don't want to hear the community development director report.
So moving on to 4A, Ms. Nicole.
I'm gonna give you all an update of some of the things going on, trying to do these every once in a while. So we just did our comp plan working group, process, and now staff is redlining the comprehensive plan. The next step will be to just get that back to the working group, let them look at the red lines, probably get back together in the summer, have a discussion, and then put out a public review draft, and the public, provide then the other thing, just on the comp plan, it should be coming to the planning commission and the board of trustees annually. And staff should be reporting to you on what we've been implementing, how it's working, if there's anything that needs to be updated. And that should be an annual review. And from what I can tell, it was adopted in 2018 and never brought back. And so that's something that I'll be planning to do annually as well.
I appreciate that.
And then developments under construction, so the Marlin Tiny Home Village, they've got their final approvals and we issued our first, essentially CO for our first tiny home. There's a few others sitting there that they have for sale, but there's actually one that's being lived in now, so that's pretty cool. And it actually ended up being a pretty smooth process, so that was sweet. Orchard, that's the one on Clover and Orchard Drive. They have 2 building permits. They've gotten 1 CO so far, the other one's very close to getting their CO. And they have 2 new building permits that we are ready to issue to them, so we're looking for more construction there. And then Mustang Crossing, as you've all probably heard, their 19-unit Phase 1A has started construction. There's a lot of dirt being moved over there, and so we'll see that continue to move forward.
So I guess I have a question to the one prior to.
Orchard.
Yes. So the asphalt over there where they have tore up because they put the sidewalk in there, does that meet town specs being 4 inches?
Yeah, it does, and they're slated for repair. There's actually some more pavement that's going to be removed. I have instructed them not to cut into the road any further because we can't have less than a 10.5-foot driving lane there. But the 22nd, it should finish the saw cut and actually be repaired.
So then the town would sign off on that road?
Correct.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Private drive, it's not a public road.
But doesn't it still have to be up to the town standards?
It needs to be,
The-
it needs to meet fire code requirements in terms of the width for a fire truck as well as being able to handle the weight of a fire truck, but it does not meet our street standards.
So you're talking about the driveway versus the repair on Clover and Orchard to the city streets? Or Lupine?
Yeah, their new road that they put in, and then they cut part of it out to put the sidewalk in.
Yeah, that's privately maintained. So outside of that, the town doesn't have any maintenance responsibilities other than the sewer main that goes into the development.
If it doesn't, if it has failure issues, their HOA has to repair that.
And then who holds the HOA accountable?
Their
You.
members, whoever lives there.
Well, I just,
We do have something in the HOA, CCNRs that if it gets to the point where the HOA is not maintaining it, they can come talk to the town and then we can make a decision with the board of trustees if we need to step in there and do some maintenance and then bill all the property owners. So we have that ability written in if we do need to get involved. But ultimately, we're always gonna tell the property owners first, you need to work together as an HOA to do those repairs.
all right, I just foresee this being a problem.
And, you know, it could be, and that's why we have that language in there.
All right.
We need to get involved.
Cool, thank you.
Is your concern the 4-inch thickness? of the
Yeah. Because once they start driving on that, and then you're gonna have like, remember the pothole over on Mississippi? The pothole that I brought up several times?
He moved across town because of that
Yeah.
pothole.
But I'm just like, you know, if we're not holding them accountable now, we're just running into more problems. I guess
Current
is what-
standards for residential streets are 4-inch pavement, compacted, and collectors are 6.
I would still almost bet that one.
fire on Mississippi's because of the dirt below it, where the utility trench is.
So you don't foresee that happen over there either?
I don't know how they compacted the dirt.
All right. So I just wanted to bring that up, so.
And then building permits to date, you know, we've had, 46, 42 of which have been submitted since March 1st. And, 10 of those are brand new single family. And just to compare, all of last year, we only had 66. So we're looking at maybe a record year for permits. It's been busy and a lot of single family. Which is a good thing. Grant updates, we are moving forward with the Highland 60. We did get the notice we missed the deadline, or we missed the timeframe to really do a good, pedestrian study before school was out. But our engineers sent an intern out there, and they know they're not gonna get paid for this because we can't pay them, because we didn't have the notice to proceed, but they did do some initial counts just to get an idea, and then they'll do a fall count when school starts, as well as possibly some summer counts, just to get an idea of how pedestrians are using that crossing of Commerce to the pawn shop. So that project is starting. The Mill Street, we are at 60% for engineering design now, and so we are hoping to get that going late summer, early fall for that project, and that's sidewalks on Mill Street between Buck Highway and Church Street. Church Street kind of jogs there, so it'll be on both sides. As well as for Buck Highway, we're gonna turn the corner on the south side and extend the sidewalk, a newer sidewalk to where the crossing that goes up to Fox Farm. We're gonna do, and then we're gonna have to put in some railing and retaining walls and things like that along that area. So we're almost done with those engineering plans and then go out to bid for that project. The transformational affordable housing grant that we applied for almost 2.7 million to the Division of Housing. We actually got 2 million, which is awesome because they granted a total of 27.8 million. They had 76 applications, and I believe they only granted, I'll say 12 or 15 of us, and so we were there. So yay Bayfield. So that's for infrastructure for Cinnamon Heights. We have a gap of almost 700,000. So there's another grant that I'm going to be asking the board if I can apply for. Application time is August, so I'm asking them at next week's meeting if we can apply so I can have that ready for August and trying to get that gap of the 700,000 in this grant. And we can, as far as the Division of Housing, I've been reaching out to them. They believe we can use the one they just gave us as our match to apply for the other grant, so that's pretty cool. And so if that all plays out, they say 4 to 6 months before they'll give us a notice to proceed because everything's moving pretty slow. But we have till 2026 to do infrastructure, and so our goal will be to start in spring of next year, and we should be done with horizontal infrastructure right before the next year. And then you see some buildings starting to be constructed there in 2025, so that's pretty exciting. And then the last one is the signal, the east side signal. We did ask for some congressionally directed spending. I asked for the whole amount for what it would cost to construct the signal, which is $3 million. And I've asked Congressman Bogert and both Senators Hickenlooper and Bennett for their support, and all three have now confirmed that they're all supporting it. And we should hear maybe by end of August, early September, if we're going to continue down that path to see some funding, federal funding for that.
And let me tell you, Bogert does not sign anything.
And she doesn't.
Doesn't sign
Exactly.
anything.
And I did see her at a conference, and I've never met her before, but I wanted to thank her for supporting it. And she said, "Thank you for giving me a project I can support." So, anyway, exciting. Hopefully, we will see some funding there. And that's what I got. Do you have any questions? What's going on?
Awesome. Thank you for that report. July 18th, 2023 is the next Board of Trustees meeting.
It's gonna be a doozy.
We didn't have the July 4th meeting.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Have a nice night.
Yeah.
4C, July 20th, 2023, next Bayfield Block Party. They seem to be rocking and rolling. Good job. August 8th, 2023, next Planning Commission meeting.
And I think on that one, we're gonna have the Joe Stevenson Park. We've revised concepts based on public comment, board of trustees comment, and planning commission comments, so we'll wanna bring that back to try and get an approval and move that forward so we can try and get some grant funding in 2024.
And then 4E, a motion to adjourn.
I'll raise a motion.
Second.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Leave Sean a little note here.
Are we keeping,
The last
who
motion,
goes first? Who gets out first?
Thank you, I have to thank you for getting that mowed down and everything like that behind our house.
Oh, no worries.